thanks for coming on the podcast. Do you just want to give us a very quick introduction of yourself and your business, and then we'll take it from there?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Tom. Quite excited about it. Yeah, my name's Paul Inman. I'm the CEO and founder of 75Media. We are an operator of large format roadside billboard sites, both classic and digital. So we've got now just shy of 1,300 sites across the UK. So we range from sites in Scotland right down to the kind of south coast, really, and obviously all the major conurbations in between. We've got quite a concentration of panels around those sites.
Very good. And we'll, before we get into 75 Media and that sort of journey, do you want to take us on a quick whistle-stop tour of your career up until starting 75 Media?
Yeah, obviously a little bit older than you, so I don't want to take everyone's time on this, but I've kind of always worked in the creative industry. Originally started in kind of graphic design and photography. So I was actually a photographer by trade a long time ago. But I kind of got into the internet just as it started in the kind of mid-90s, and really kind of hooked onto that as a really exciting opportunity to not only grow my design skills, but also tech skills as well. And I'm not a tech person. My background isn't technology. It's just I'm a kind of a adopter of what's new. And yeah, I kind of worked my way up through kind of learning the kind of ropes in design, and then was lucky enough to move to a major branding studio based in Yorkshire, but actually they were global, so they were based all over the world. And that was a kind of a baptism of fire, if I'm honest. You know, going from a kind of university graduate straight into, it was like moving from a Sunday league to the Premier League, if I'm honest. And I was working with some amazing brands across the world, you know, from Nike to Sony to, you know, Umbro, Adidas, etc. And, you know, it was a great time and a great learning curve. But I always had the itch to kind of do my own thing. And luckily, the company I worked for at the time, the actual CEO and founders were very supportive of people with kind of entrepreneurial desires, and they kind of gave me a bit of a shove, if I'm honest, in a good way, to say, come on, you need to go out there and do it. So I then started working with mobile phone technology, again, kind of on the creative side of it. Ultimately led me to kind of opening up my own design studio, again, always down the creative route, creative kind of angle. So it was a small creative design and branding studio, which expanded quite rapidly, and we moved over into Dubai, early 2000s, and from there, really, that's what got me kind of hooked on the outdoor advertising space. I mean, it's quite weird because as a young boy, I was fascinated by billboards that we used to pass as we were driving past them. And it sounds very cliche now, but I always thought one day wouldn't it be great to see my work on those boards? Because as a designer, what a great canvas to have for your work. So it's quite ironic that it's come full circle to the point that we actually now own the boards that I actually was thinking about one day I might see my work on. And that kind of set me off on a journey of kind of building businesses as well. So I built two businesses in the out-of-home space, one in kind of shopping centres in 6 sheets, the smaller format, so more retail media, which kind of moved on to another business which I exited, and then built what was the previous business to 75 Media. That got me into large format roadside. I built a business from one 48 sheet, that's what the different sizes are called, to over 165 across the UK, with some business partners which was a fantastic kind of learning curve again. And then exited that business in May 2020, which is, if anybody remembers, 2020, that was the height of the pandemic. Managed to exit a business which was fantastic, but set up another one straight after it, which was extremely difficult and quite a challenging time, because myself and the lady that started with me, Katie Conway, were trying to sell roadside advertising to people told to stay indoors. So yeah, you can imagine the challenges we faced in the early days of 75 Media. That was obviously when the company was launched in May 2020. luckily we had some really good client relationships. We had some really loyal clients that kind of came over with us. But the first couple of years were extremely difficult, coming out the side of a pandemic, trying to kind of get people back into roadside advertising, the confidence of, was that medium going to work for people, especially small businesses we were working with at the time. And things have gone on from there. Obviously, we've grown quite a lot since then. We have, some great clients, some great partnership relationships with our infrastructure partner, people providers of sites, as well as the agencies we work with. So it's been a real journey, if I'm honest, to get to this point.
Very good. So, bit of context now. So, business, looking at 75Media, business starts in 2020. You're now up at, was it 1,300 locations that you said?
Yeah, we're just short of 1,300 locations. Our pipeline will take us over that in terms of sites that we're going to have agreed to kind of deploy over the next 12, 18 months. And that's made up of both classic and digital sites. So the majority of our portfolio is what we call a classic site, your traditional paper and paste board.
Yeah.
And it's a really strong market. It's really good for SMEs. We do have quite a few kind of some of the more what you would call national brands using it as well. And we obviously have a growing portfolio of digital sites, and they range in the same size as what you would call a D48, right up to some of the mega towers that we are operating as well. And it's quite a nice option to have the two different formats, because we've got two different offers to clients. We can allow businesses of all sizes to access our industry, the out-of-home industry. And I think for us as a business, one of the things that we're really passionate about is democratizing the buying of out-of-home, of billboard space. But pushing that kind of stories to be more about actually buying audience, because that's really what our clients are doing. They're buying the audience that pass those boards rather than the boards themselves. And I think as an industry, we've been quite fixated for many years about the board itself rather than the audience.
Right.
And I think over the next kind of 6-12 months, we will be really kind of changing some of the language of what we say to our clients, which for me is a really interesting way to see the industry grow. We're all about growth of the business itself, obviously, but growth of the industry. And I think the more people we can get into using any out-of-home, asset, whether that be the large format roadside that we operate, or it's kind of transport, or it's, basically anything to do with the out-of-home industry, we want to champion the fact that we want to bring more clients into using any out-of-home asset.
Yeah, we'll focus in on like the start of 75Media then, and maybe take us into, obviously you had quite a lot of business experience before that. What was the vision for starting that up? And I would guess starting a business in a pandemic means that team structures and how you actually work as a business was different to previous ones. So maybe it might be good to go into that and sort of the start of it and what the vision was there.
Yeah, I think, the start of 75Media, there was definitely a vision of what I wanted to achieve at the time, but visions can change. I think they have grounding, but I think you also have to think about external factors that can potentially derail or change your vision. Starting a business in a pandemic is very different to starting a business in a normal kind of world or a normal world kind of economic kind of balance. And nobody knew what was going to happen kind of during a pandemic, after a pandemic. I had all kind of fear-mongering about recessions and things like that. And we managed to push through those things. But the vision was always to try and build a network of, premium sites that could be accessed by, any business. We have a very good connection to SMEs, local SMEs. My previous business was really, its revenue came, probably 99% of its revenue came from local businesses. So it was a real kind of shiny light moment where it was like, well, I've done it once, but maybe we could do it again, but on a much bigger scale and offer it to a larger audience, as well as kind of, as the portfolio grows, it becomes attractive to larger brands. Those larger brands work with the holdco agencies, and I had existing relationships there, but the idea was always to kind of strengthen the team as well. I learned a long time ago that, one person can't do everything, and really you need a very, very good team around you. And so the kind of vision was to build a business that, could be accessed by any other business, and was showing the benefits of out of home and how powerful roadside advertising can be for brands, but also to build a team of like-minded individuals that were passionate about the same things I was, and were able to help build that business and create that journey for everybody involved in it. And, I've been extremely lucky to have some amazing people join the business. Right at the start, there was two very young and clever guys that kind of I met and thought, actually, these two are fantastic. We need to kind of join forces and come together. And that was Joe and Alex. They joined very early in kind of like 2021. And obviously Katie was with me from the start. And then we just kind of built the business up around the kind of, pillars that we created at the time. But again, fundamentally, things have changed for us now. Other people have joined the business. We brought in senior hires. We brought in Joel Turner, who came from a very digital background, who's now just recently become the MD. And I think the success of where we've got to is really down to the people that we've got in the business. Okay, we've got vision, we've got direction, and, some of that's come from me, but I think once that's set and people buy into that, they can really push the journey forward a lot quicker than you can on your own. And there's no doubt about that. We wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for the people that are involved in the business at all levels. We've got across from sales to operations to marketing to finance, there's really, really high quality people in the business right now.
That's it's probably the biggest issue of founders that I've spoken to is, yes, the first thing is letting go of things that you want to control the whole time, because you're just not going to be able to grow if you're the person that's doing everything. And the second thing is getting the right people in to do those roles and really drive things forward. How have you put that structure in place to make sure that you one, get the right people, and then two, have the leadership and the ways of being able to let them go and drive things forward, like I said?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think talent attracts talent, and at the very beginning, I knew we had talented people in the business at the very beginning, but we were quite small, and I think people probably weren't taking us seriously in the industry. Clients were supporting us, but we obviously needed to offer them more. And then when you look as a small business to try and hire key people, it's looking at how attractive your business is to them. What are their needs and requirements, and how do you move them away from maybe where they are now and they might be quite happy. So in the early days, we struggled to find, I would say, great talent. We had a few key pillars of people we needed, but we needed to bolster that with more key talent. And I think once one or two started to move over to us and kind of see what we were trying to build, it gave reassurance to other people who had maybe been looking at us for a while to actually kind of take the plunge and come to us. And we have a great retention of staff. And I think it's because of, two things. So I think the culture for me is huge. It's a very open culture. We love ideas, we love input. It's quite a flat hierarchy in terms of the structure. No one sits in their own office with the door shut or anything like that. It's kind of really, we're on this journey together, and we work together as a team. We support each other as a team. We actively promote people, making mistakes and not worrying about failure. We don't want people to make fundamental mistakes, but what we want them to do is bring new ideas to the business and and feel safe and confident that those ideas can be explored. And if it doesn't work out and it isn't great in the end, then don't worry about it. It was an idea we tried. Let's try a different idea. Let's move on. Let's try something new. So that kind of, I think culturally, the idea of openness is something we stand for. We don't really promote company values and all the usual things. I think they're quite dead, if I'm honest. I think it's quite an old way of looking at your business and how true are those values to your business. So we've taken a stance of openness and also leadership. I've tried to actively ban the word management and boss. It doesn't sit very well with me. I think leadership and actually promoting leadership by demonstrating leadership at all levels, from obviously, the key senior people in the business to the key people in every department. Leadership is shown in many ways. We have to show leadership in what we want to do, what we want to achieve, but also every day people show leadership in the actions they take, the decisions they make. And it works really well. It's not just one person saying that we do this, we do that. Leadership can be seen at all levels. And I think that's really helped us grow a culture where people feel safe and secure. And, we can ride different problems. We can get over pressures because it's a business. It's a commercial entity. We have to look at revenue. We have to look at profitability. But overall, the culture pulls us through when times are difficult, and when times are good, it's what keeps us all together as well. And we have a motto really internally, and it's lead, don't follow. And I think that has helped us also attract talent because we've brought over some key people from some of our competitors, and some of the competitors are much larger than us. But these people have made a leap of faith to come to us, and I'm hoping that it's been rewarded by the fact that they are championing some of their own ideas. They're being able to lead some of their own projects and have that freedom to try things, and maybe where they were suppressed before in other jobs, they've got an opportunity now to look at the overall strategy, look at how they work and fit within that, but then take on their own kind of drive and focus to make it become a reality, and not just for them but for the whole business. So there's so many kind of like teachings and LinkedIn posts and methodologies about leadership and culture. I think culture comes from within. I think leadership has to be demonstrated at all levels. I hate using the word from the top down, but I think you probably understand what I mean. It's if we're not showing leadership, then how do we expect everybody else to do it?
Yeah.
So, I really, really believe that businesses are changing their kind of feel about culture and leadership. And there's some amazing examples across the world of amazing leaders. And, I'm not going to go through all the names. Everyone's got their favorites. But I think you can take learnings from other businesses. You can take learnings from strong leaders that are out there in all types of industries, not just the one that you fit in, and, borrow bits of that and work with things that actually fit into what you want to achieve, your vision, and what will fit well for the people in the business. And culture is, I think that keeps us all together. It's got to be healthy. It's got to be strong. And, we're very, very careful about the people we hire now. Like any kind of startup business, sometimes the people we hire at the very beginning are always going to be the people that come along on the full journey.
Yeah.
And I think we've learned from mistakes. Some people weren't right and moved on. And I believe everybody has moved on in the right way. But now we're very careful about who comes into the business. The cultural fit for us, and especially for me, is paramount. They have to really fit into what we're trying to achieve as a business, and also bring something as well. I'm a very big supporter of being intrigued by people who are different, people who are a bit challenging, people who have ideas, almost the renegades and the misfits, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Rather than the people that are just going to comply and fit in a box that we require. we don't really have that box. We have like I say, we have an open culture. So the more people that can come in to challenge us, to bring new ideas and initiatives, I think it just, one, makes the business stronger, but culturally makes us stronger as well, because everybody resonates off somebody else. And if you've got a team of people that really have got, something to give to the business and are getting something back from the business, then it just creates this culture of, I want to be a part of that. I want to go on this journey. And I think for me, it's something that as we grow, we've gone from, 2 people to just shy of about 65 now. I hope it stays around that number as well, if I'm honest. But, as you get to that level, it does become more difficult to not control a culture, but keep the culture on the path that you set at the beginning. And I think it's easier when you hire people that fit into that culture. It only takes one bad person to cause a lot of problems. So, yeah, I think that's, really strong kind of things that we stand by.
Definitely. And it's like I coach a rugby league team, and the culture that we set is exactly the same as business. I think it sort of follows the same principles, if you like, and we've had a lot of success in, like, you set the culture at the start, like you've been at the top, but then it's down to the players and the people inside it to drive that forward, and anybody that comes in, they're the ones that are driving those standards, and a right to challenge, like you say, and not just you're not just got a bunch of yes men.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I've never had a massive team of 65 in business, but the way it's likened to like a sports team, and how you get all the successful teams that you see have all had good cultures, and it just it seems like how that fits into business is pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah, I think it's the feeling like, with a team, you kind of working together for the same goal. Whether it's a sports team to win, you need everybody to be on the same kind of path. Lots of people, you're all doing different jobs in a team. Like football is not my thing, but it's a great analogy to look at. The players on the pitch are really our salespeople to a certain extent. They're the Premiership players, and they need support. And the support comes from the back office. It comes from the coaches. It comes from the nutritionist. It comes from the advisors. It comes from, the manager and all these other, the physio. That, in essence, is all the other parts of the company. From, from the board to the senior leadership teams to the operations to finance to marketing. We all work together to support each other. And I think, for me, that's how any good team should work. If there's any one part of those kind of divisions that aren't working well or working together, things start to fall down. And we don't, trust me, we don't get things right all the time. We don't win all the matches and score all the goals, but we do really try to be our best in everything we do. And we're constantly looking at improvement. We're constantly looking at refinement, and constantly looking at, is this actually what our clients want? So we try to talk to our clients on a regular basis to find out, is this team delivering you the things you want? Or do we need to look at a different way of building products that really suit your business and your business requirements? And again, working as a team, we can go out there and we can find that information, and we can refine what we do, we can refine our structures, and we can improve, be on a path of constant improvement and constant learning. And I think, again, within the culture of the business, we promote that, constant kind of improvement, constant learning, investment in people as well. So, yeah. I'm probably going on a bit too much about culture and people, but it's a big part of our business.
No, it's good, definitely. I want to touch on probably two more sort of subjects that we've got covered. The first one I want to go through is that you're a big advocate, and it's definitely quite rare that you hear this of rather than looking at the business growth, you were looking at industry growth. And I know that you mentioned on our chat before of like collaboration in the industry between different companies would certainly help with that. What are maybe give us some thoughts on that growth of the industry and how you think that can happen, and maybe touch on the collaboration stuff.
Yeah, I think, it's a fantastic industry. It really is. And I think once you're in, it's very difficult to get out. What we sell, what we offer to clients, I think has not really been seen as one of the main media channels for a long time. I think businesses got very fixated by the digital media world, and rightly so. It's been fantastic for a lot of businesses, but with the fragmented kind of different channels from radio to TV to digital to press, I think where we kind of cut through is that we're probably one of the last broadcast mediums. We can reach the population. You can't turn off what we put out there. It can't be flicked over. It can't be blocked. And for clients, it's a fantastic opportunity for them to promote their businesses, to build brand, to get their messages out to different audiences, whether it's from a council to a local business to a national brand to whatever. The out of home industry is absolutely fantastic for doing that, and it's growing year on year, and there's a reason for that. Is because it actually works. And I think some other channels have kind of won out is some of the metrics they can give back to clients, but we're starting to really kind of enhance what we do in that, in terms of measuring ROI, attribution. And I think when it comes to that, I think that's when as an industry we should come together more. We have a great governing body. We have some really major operators in this industry that have been there for a long time. But I think collaboration between us all should be stronger to promote the channel and to promote the benefits of clients, brands, businesses using the out-of-home channel to help grow their business. Out of this 37 billion media spend in the UK, we take a very, very small fraction of that. And we really should take a lot more. But I think we can only do that by collectively wanting to grow the industry. And I think the only way we're going to grow the industry is if we look at trying to bring more businesses into the industry. How do we do that? We promote the benefits of what we sell. And I think it's very difficult because, businesses can get quite siloed. They can get quite focused on competitiveness. They can get quite focused on who's the biggest, who's the best. And I think really what we should be looking at is, how do we make the industry better? How do we make it stronger? How do we make it something that we can take forward and show clients that actually their spend on out of home could actually net them a greater return than some other channels? Or in some cases, how can two channels work together? We're quite into looking at kind of social amplification. So how can we look at, what a client is doing in terms of their social outreach, a digital kind of marketing spend, and when they are doing an out of home campaign and they're looking to reach a certain audience, is how can we amplify that with them? And I think there is a way where, competing channels can actually work together as well. And that's a really kind of interesting avenue for us to explore over the next few years, as well as kind of, helping to strengthen our industry by more collaboration between network owners or operators, is how can we actually work with some of the other media channels to strengthen what we do? It works for both parties then, and it's really all about looking after the client, whether that's a national brand and they're working with the agencies, or it's direct to brands, or it's direct to the SME market. If we are all shouting the same message, then I think we will attract more revenue into our industry.
We've done some work for an out of home company, and the accessibility for local businesses through digital is like amazing, and you can challenge me on this, but I think there's like an education piece for local businesses, because they look at out of home and they think, I've got to do it for 3 weeks, and I've got to get a big poster, and I've got to spend, thousands of pounds. Whereas, there's thinking back to the work that we did there, there's like all the companies from a burger van on the shop corner where they're down the road from the board to national brands, and they're all different budgets, and they can spend, I don't know, like 200 quid all the way up to hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Do you think that's right, in that people don't really see that it's accessible to that type of business?
Yeah, again, a great question, and 100% yes. I mean, I've worked in the industry now for probably about 17, 18 years, and the two previous businesses that we did were very much focused on selling to local businesses. And I found then, and I still find now, that education is a huge part of what we do, but it's also very costly, because educating somebody or a group or a sector takes a long time. You've got to have multiple things going on many different channels to try and reach that audience, not only to try and sell to them, but to educate them. And I think as an industry, we've not done very well with educating businesses about the benefits of out of home, or selfishly roadside, and the power that has in terms of reaching an audience. And businesses can be quite confused by what they see. I mean, historically, if you think about what you've seen on billboard, it's just been the main brands that everybody recognizes.
Yeah.
We won't go through all the names, but I think you can probably imagine which brands you could easily say I've seen on a billboard. And, the perception from a local SME who may have a great and, very healthy marketing budget to spend is, I can't afford to be on that billboard. It's too expensive. But actually, when you drill down into the actual metrics, it's actually one of the most cost-effective channels to actually advertise on. It really is. In terms of reach, in terms of audience reach, it surpasses some of the other channels. But the perception is, it's not for me, it's too expensive, or it's too difficult to book. And I think that's where the idea about us wanting to democratize the industry is to open it up so more people can book it. We're heavily adopting technology across the business. We're very much kind of into AI-based technology, agentic AI. We're working with our first agents at the moment in terms of helping not only outreach, but also educate clients as to the benefits of out of home. And, I think soon, within the next 6 to 12 months, we'll probably become an AI first business, if I'm honest, because all our systems will start to be linked together, and we can very easily deploy, whether it's an educational piece through multiple channels, or it's a pure play sales piece. We'll be able to activate a lot of different things very quickly using the technology we have. And my hope is that helps us reach more people and educate them a lot quicker, but also make booking very accessible and easy. I think no one's really, I may get shot down for this, but I don't think any other operator in the market has really championed the local business and thought about a way of how we can make it easy for them to book. I did years ago, and not even that long ago, we did some kind of ghost shopping on other networks, and how difficult it was to get through to somebody to book something. It was unbelievable. And I think that spurred us on to try and make booking out of home or booking our assets very easy to do, very user-friendly, and do not, whatever you do, kind of wrap it with jargon. Because actually it's a very simple product. It's a large advertising canvas to reach an audience. And what we're trying to do now is get very kind of intelligent about the audience that's moving around our boards. And I think if we can educate a client into look at the type of people we can bring to your business, or the eyeballs we can give you on your canvas, that could really help your business grow. And I think the idea of helping businesses grow by what we can offer is probably where we're going to look at the kind of more information education led play. So as soon as that clicks, I mean, we've got some clients that have been with us from my previous business. We're talking 8-10 years, and they're savvy operators, savvy marketeers, in control of their budgets. So, I asked them, why do you still keep booking with us? Please don't stop as well. But, they keep booking because it's working for them. And if I could replicate what they say and put that in front of every other business, then, we would need more sites. We would need more sites tomorrow, because I know for a fact businesses listen to other business owners. And if you get success from a channel, then you really want to just kind of, keep on with it, and you invest more and you invest more and you invest more. And once the client's been educated into the benefits of using our format and using out of whole, they tend not to leave. I've got a really good client retention rate. Our long-term, our average long-term value of a customer goes up year on year on year. So they may come in at a smaller amount, but it works for them. So they invest again the next year and the following year and the following year, and until where we are now. And some of our SMEs are some of our major revenue still in the business. They really keep on investing in the format because it works for them. So you're right, education is huge. We're trying to be clever about how we get the message out there, and we've got some great plans over the next kind of 12 months, not only with technology, but with kind of, education through some of these technological channels, but also just kind of trying things and trying different things. You never know when you might hit the sweet spot that really kind of gets the message over to a business or a brand. This is really for you as a channel. And yeah, I'm really excited actually to see what our plans are going to unearth over the next 12, 18 months. Because I actually think if we get this right, it really will help grow the industry over the next 3-5 years. And that's a benefit to everybody, not only to us, but to other operators in the industry, and also to our partners who work with us to supply us the infrastructure that we've got. If we've got more demand, then they've got a greater, propensity to get more of their assets in the ground. So there's lots of plus points and benefits for us to educate a market. The problem, I go right back to my first bit, the problem is it costs to educate. So we're looking at ways that we can do it in a cost-effective way that really can be sustainable for us in the future as well.
Would those companies be saying of why they use out of home and why they keep coming back?
It's a good question, and we're doing more research with our clients to find out, why they continuously book with us. And I think it's because really it only takes a couple of triggers from clients to say things like, oh, I saw your advert on that board, or I keep seeing you all around town. And sometimes it's, it's difficult to say, do you get an instant activation from the message you put on the board?
Yeah.
And that then goes down to what what the client's actually saying and wanting. So yes, if it's an instant kind of surge of ticket sales, then let's look at a short-term activation across some boards, but maybe it's a big reach, so you get a bigger audience. And when we talk to businesses, I think clearly the ones that use us more and more is they've got quite a clear, defined strategy of what they want from the medium, from us. Right. Is it instant activations are based on a trigger, whether that's a sale item or it's ticket sales or it's an event, etc., or is it that they're looking for longer term brand building? And I think when we talk to clients, some of the feedback we get is kind of asking some of those questions up front before we dive straight into a sale. You're interested in using us, you're interested in the channel, you may not have used it before, so let's talk about what your requirements. What are you looking to do? Are you wanting more people into your showroom? Are you wanting more car sales? Are you wanting more online visitors? Are you wanting just kind of brand awareness either nationally or regionally or very hyper local? Once we understand that, then we can look at tailoring a solution that, will work for the client. And then we look at ways that they can measure the success of it. We're not talking shortcodes or things like these, things that just don't work on our channel. But looking at the metrics of, has it had an increase on their web traffic? Has it had an increase on their physical store visits? Have their ticket sales gone up? And sometimes that's very difficult to define because they may have a multimedia mixed kind of marketing campaign going on. So it's not that they can just segment it to our product. But sometimes some clients do it in a singular way where they may turn down some of those other channels and then use us and see if there's an uplift from that. And in a lot of occasions, and it's like any channel, it's not always going to work for every client. In a lot of occasions, it's worked, and then they kind of say, look, this is great, I want to reinvest in this. So I think, I'd be more than happy for any of our businesses that continuously advertise us to talk to another business. And, so selfishly, I almost want them to be there online ready to say, look, here's an endorsement, please speak to X from so-and-so company. Because they would sell it for us, it would be fantastic. And, case studies are great, and we're working on kind of more video case studies and other things that will help businesses understand that it's a great channel. But I think it really goes down to the requirements of the business owner. What are they looking to achieve? And for us to understand that, for then our sales teams to really kind of build a campaign that we believe is going to work for them. Then for them to talk to us about how they're going to record that, how they're going to kind of record the metrics. And we're building on some fantastic technology that we believe will really change that in the industry. And we're going to be launching that in the next 6 to 12 months. That will give a client access to that information anyway, real time. And, once we've kind of almost closed that loop, then I think as a channel, there won't be anything stronger, really, than that. But in the meantime, it's like, if we can kind of almost close the loop ourselves by understanding the full customer journey, why they come to us, what do they want from us, what are they expecting, and how are they going to measure that? If we can work with them in that full circle now, they tend to get a better result. And it also goes down to, the creative execution of what they put on a board. I hate using the word expert because, we're all always going to continuously learn. So we're never an absolute expert in something. But we are actually very good at understanding what's going to work on a board. What's going to work to grab that audience's attention, and also understanding the audience first before you put up the creative. So what type of audience are you trying to attract? Let's segment that audience and let's make sure your message is going to really resonate with them. And if it does, then your likelihood for engagement is going to be much higher than maybe the advert that you wanted to put up. So we are getting more kind of critical with our advertisers. Mainly, I would say the SMEs and some of the larger brands. The national kind of bookings come through from, the agencies, which are very, very good at delivering creative with the agencies they work with. So it's really, more education to SMEs, to some of the larger brands as to what will work. So if we can understand your 360-degree kind of requirements, the big factor in success is what you put up there as well. What is the message and who is it going to? And if we can get all those things right for a client, then they tend to stay with us, and they stay with us for a long time. But it's going back to your education piece, Tom. If we have the time to educate a client in this process, we get a better result. Where it's a problem is where a client says, no, I must have this advert up, and it must have 1,000 different pieces of information on it, and it must be in the worst colors possible. And you'd be kind of saying, well, that's not going to work. And you don't want to kind of discredit what they're doing, but really we want the best for the client. We want it to work for the client. So we do constantly question and challenge our clients' creative at times, to the point now where we've just this month launched an internal studio. So where we can actually, we can look at offering creative services, obviously for the large format roadside, to our clients. It's not an external offer, so it's not like someone can just come in and get the design services. You have to be a client, and it's a part of an add-on service. But you know, that's their experience kind of playing in now and saying, well, we know that this will be better than that. That will work. That will be stronger. Let's look at refining this. And we can do that now through a studio that we've just opened up. We've also brought in some great, again, AI technology. We're looking at how we can look at the optimization of an advert, you know, for one, it's engagement, it's emotional connection. And we can actually analyze that now. And, you know, this has been around for a while. I know some of the larger agencies use it, but we've adopted it as a business as a whole. So we can take a piece of creative, run it through our optimization software, and come back and say, actually, it would perform better if the logo was moved, the color was different, your message was stronger, or you stripped it right back of all the things that you want to say and have a very clear defined message to that audience. It will resonate in a way where they'll get engagement. You think about it, you've got between 2 to 4 seconds of someone's attention on a billboard, you know, and if you, and I understand why some companies, some businesses want to say everything, because you just want to tell everybody everything and you're excited about telling everybody about your business. But what is the one thing that you're really trying to do here? Is it drive traffic to your website? Is it bring people into your store? Is it to sell tickets? Is it to just have full brand awareness? Once you understand that message and you understand what you're trying to achieve as a client, it's much easier to create the creative. It's much easier to build that engagement, that visual. And, that's why really we opened the studio, is to kind of say, look, we can help you with it as well. Because not every business owner is going to have a, in-house, hands-on marketing department or creative designer sat there. You know, some of the owner-managed businesses we work with will just be like, well, I'll do it on a night, or I'll get my kid to do it when he gets home. Oh, there's some AI tools, I can just get it to do it for me. That's all true, but how effective is it going to be if you don't kind of work with us to understand, will that get engagement? And I think it's a really exciting time for us because the studio's just launched. We've got a very young, talented, creative guy running that. And as it builds, I can see that building up to, a few more designers coming in, more AI technology working across it. And I think that, again, will raise the bar. I think if we're trying to bring more people in this industry, what we've got to do is raise the creative bar as well. Because if you look at some of the bigger brands, the national brands, the brands we all recognize, if you look at some of their advertising, it's strong, it's powerful, it's simple messages. They've got an advantage that they're an existing brand, so people know them.
Yeah.
So if McDonald's just put up the golden arches on a billboard, it's synonymous, McDonald's, it's fine, everyone knows that. They don't even have to show a burger, everybody will know it. Yep. Well, if a local burger chain just put their logo up there, it wouldn't have the same power because they don't have the same brand recognition. So we have to look at, sweet spots between having too little information on an advert to having too much information. And, that for me is an exciting challenge as a business, but as an industry, we should all be kind of pushing towards, pushing that bar higher in terms of what is on a billboard, because it will then work for the client. It also, as for the whole industry, it looks better. If we're wanting to bring more revenue into the industry, we need to make sure what is put on the sites and what the audience sees is creatively very good, is very strong. The brands that we work with want to sit alongside other brands that are strong as well. So I think it's a really important thing that we need to do is raise the creative bar, the output across our industry. But, we'll spearhead that if we have to. We will build tools and we will work with our clients at all levels to make sure what goes on the sites looks fantastic. Looks fantastic. I mean, you think what you've got there, you've got this huge canvas at the side of a road, whether it's a classic site or it's a digital site, whether it's static or it has motion, full motion or part motion on it. You can really engage, passers-by with that. You can really engage an audience with a screen that's that big, an advertising hoarding that's that big. We're not talking about it on someone's phone. We're not talking about it on a computer screen. We're talking about it on a huge, huge screen at the side of a road. And for me, again, it's a really exciting opportunity.
Definitely. Good stuff. Well, Paul, it's been really good conversation. Like I said before, and a few times, it's refreshing to hear somebody speak about growing an industry rather than just their business inside of there. So it's been really interesting to look at. If people like the sound of you and the business and want to check you out, where can they find you?
Just visit 75media.co.uk, or if you want to kind of contact me directly, LinkedIn's my thing. So just go on LinkedIn, search for Paul Inman, 75Media. Let's get connected. We'd love to talk to more businesses. I'd love to talk more about the industry. So yeah, look, thank you, Tom, for your time, and sorry if I've waffled on too much. I got carried away with things, but you could probably tell there's a real love for the industry and also what we're doing and the business that we are creating, the people behind it. But yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you for having me on.
Thanks for going on, and it's an ever changing industry like we've touched on. So
yeah,
we might have to do it again in 6 months, a year.
No problem at all. No problem. Right. Thank you very much. See you.